its stories.
Yeah.
And,
Big camera rolling
it's just
speed.
amazing.
How's your time go? 150, 51, 52? Yes. Okay, Bob, you want two-shot the whole time on your
Yes,
shot? Okay,
just
okay.
two-shot all the way.
Okay, and Bob, it's all yours.
Okay. Well, Shane Caruth, I've been reading about you for well over a year
Oh, wow.
and the success of your movie Primer. And I congratulate you. I am so happy for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'd be happy for any first-time filmmaker who had that kind of success, but maybe because you're also from Dallas makes me want to congratulate you even more.
Well, thank you.
So here you are, first film out, won the Grand Jury Prize in the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation Awards at Sundance. And have there been any other festivals in the meanwhile?
There's been a lot, yeah. I think maybe 9 or 10 over the course of the year. Everywhere from Atlanta to Boston, Seattle, and just a few days ago in Toronto.
And always the same response?
No, not all. I mean, there are some festivals that seem to attract a crowd that is very, very much into film, so much that they read about the films they're going to see beforehand. They kind of know what they're getting into. And then there's some films that are, more just people kind of out of curiosity showing up and not knowing exactly what to expect. So I mean, they're different, but they're all really interesting.
And the people who didn't know what to expect, do they understand it?
They do. I think maybe they expect to understand more than I guess is the intention on one viewing. I mean, it's a complicated story, and my favorite films are the ones where, once I see them, I feel like I've seen a core part of the story and something that's complete. But if I take another look at it, I realize that there was more information in there, and there's more to gather. And so I think you can maybe only make the type of films that you want to see, and so that's what I was trying to do here. So it's kind of it's some people it takes I don't know, it's different. It depends on what their expectations are.
And also, I think it depends on one's own background.
Yeah.
Some of us are not good at techno speak.
Right. Well, I mean, the hope for those scenes is that there's, if you're not interested in what they're saying, that hopefully there's some information there about the politics of the group. When they're sitting around using this tech jargon, it's all based in real stuff. But even if that's not coming across, hopefully there's something there about, who's enthusiastic about what, who's proprietary, who's kind of sided with who. So hopefully the intention is that there's a lot more going on there, even if the tech doesn't work.
Was Sundance your first festival?
Yeah, it was.
And how did that come about?
Yeah, I met the early deadline for their submission, and that was in August, and I didn't find out it was actually in the festival until December. So I made a trip out there. I wasn't sure what I was doing. I hadn't submitted to a festival before, and I was worried that it was a very political process, and that it didn't matter maybe so much on the merit of the film. It had more to do with who you knew. So I went out there and just started making calls just to get a tape in the hands of anybody that I thought might know somebody who knew somebody. And so I called hundreds of producers and managers and publicists and everyone. And I don't know if that had a lot. I don't know if that did any good, because I know for the weeks following I was still pestering people to take a look at the tape. And I know that eventually I got a call from someone at Sundance, and they had actually, it was one of the programs, and they had seen the film. And that was the first time I knew that it had gotten above the level that I was worried about, where maybe an intern takes a look at the first few minutes and dismisses it and then moves on, because they have so many submissions. So I don't know, it's all kind of foggy as to what exactly happened, but I know that it was a long waiting process till I found out that it was actually in December.
So you went to LA to make contact?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, out to Los Angeles, that's right.
And eventually the word got to Sundance.
I believe so, yeah, I believe so.
You made the film for, if what I read is correct, you made the film for $7,000.
That's right, yeah. That isn't, that got it to the point where it was accepted to Sundance, and I immediately realized that, okay, now I have to have something to project on screen to people. And so there's the process of, it was shot on Super 16, and we had to blow that up to 35 millimeter to have a print to show in a theater. That's kind of a fixed cost, but that cost about $30,000 at that point. But it's basically just a bigger version of what I had assembled in my apartment. There's no real additions to the sound or music or the way it looks or anything.
And then Focus Films, were they the first and only people to want it, or?
No, it was a Think Film, but they were interested in the film before the awards ceremony at Sundance, and there was one or two other companies that were also interested, and but I think after the award, I don't know if it had a lot to do. It didn't change really the offers that they were talking about, but I don't know. I think it kind of changed maybe in their mind. They kind of thought, okay, maybe this is a little bit more marketable than we thought. But I guess we'll see if they were right.
Then, once you had the distribution on the thing, and other people were involved, was anyone trying to get you to change anything?
No, that's what I was both worried about that and kind of looking forward to that. I was worried that, with a film like this, they would put some techno soundtracks, a lot of electric dance thumping music or whatever. I don't know why I thought that, but that's what I assumed that they would try and do. Or change, add a voiceover or change parts of the narrative. They didn't want to change anything, which, I was really happy with that. So it was pretty cool.
Supposing they had wanted to make some changes.
I try to be open-minded, but I don't know if there's anything they could have come up with that I would have been okay with. When I was trying to raise the money for the blow-up in December, at this point, all we knew that it was actually going to play Sundance. I was looking for that money because I didn't have the money for the blow-up. And what I found is that there were people that were willing to put that money up because it was going to play at Sundance, but they did want to make changes to it. And there was all kinds of ideas about adding special effects that kind of outlined who was doing what when in the plot, kind of like a John Madden telestrator or something. And it was just, I got some really bizarre ideas from these people. So I was kind of wary of little changes and stuff, but I don't know. I think if it was a good change, I'd be open to it. But
the first set of changes, were you saying yes, no, maybe? What were you saying?
Oh, in my head I was saying no, but I think I was saying, okay, well, let me think about it, and that's when I started aggressively looking for other sources of money. And luckily I was able to find, I have a friend who had the faith to kind of put together enough money for the blow up, and he didn't want to make any changes. And the other thing is the money that people were offering before. The one change that they wanted to do, which I really was not into, is that there's no credits at the beginning of the film. It's something that I've never really been into. I like to just start the film, and if you want to know who made it, stay till the end. You can look at the credits. But these guys, they wanted to add executive producer credits from like 4 or 5 people that weren't involved with the film, but they were putting up the money. And I guess that's the way it works out there. But that seemed so unfair to everybody who worked on the film. Back when it wasn't a Sundance film, it wasn't anything, and they were working for free. For them to be, usurped by guys who come in at the last minute, it was something I really tried hard to not have to do. So
it's called the Hollywood game.
It is, but it's amazing that it's because even in Dallas, and we know the cliches of how it works out there. It's amazing that it's actually true that it works like that.
What another thing that struck me when finally I got production notes and I did read the credits. It struck me that even your actors, like the actor who plays Philip, is also the camera operator.
That's right, yeah.
And another fellow is a production assistant.
Right.
And now that can't work again, can it? I mean, if when you do another film, you can't do that.
I don't think so. I mean, I think
the unions will be all over you.
The what?
The unions.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a whole other thing, man. I know I never could have got away with that this time, but I don't know, it's like one of those things that has a lot of strengths. I mean, when we're a crew of 5, we're able to move into any location with very little disrupting anything. But at the same time, we're all doing multiple jobs, and it tends to wear you out. And rather than excelling at any one thing, you kind of do your best just to kind of get through the day and get what you need to get done. So yeah, I hope that's not the situation if I get to make another film. But it's good to know that it's possible for people to have multiple roles. So.
You must have another film in mind.
Yeah, I do. I was halfway through with the script when all of this started, and for a long time I was trying to both write it and take care of it's called deliverables, but everything I need to get ready this year for the release, getting to the distributor so they can release it properly. There's a long list of things that didn't exist before and now need to, that I've been having to get ready. And so I haven't been able to pay the attention I need to the script, but I hope to be able to go back to it once the film's released.
And will it be in the science fiction genre? Or?
No, it's a romance. It's a romance between an 18-year-old oceanography prodigy and the daughter of a commodities trader. It's set at sea in Eastern Africa and Southern Asia, or off the coast. And so I don't know. It's a different film, but it's really, I don't know. Thematically, it's really interesting to me.
So it will have to be shot on location.
I think so, yeah. The one thing that's been really great about this year is I've got to meet other filmmakers, and I got to meet some people that have shot in, like in Ecuador, and they're able to shoot there on lower budgets and, pick a few locations there, and they can make those look like it's several exotic locations around the world. And so I don't know, I'm hoping to do something like that.
Of all the things that you have learned with this first film,
Mm-hmm.
what is the most surprising thing, or what was the most surprising thing?
I think how important the role of a producer is. That, I spent so much of my time during the shoot, we would lose a location, so I'm re-securing a location or making sure, actors are wearing the right clothes and picking up the camera from the rental facility and taking the film to the lab. There was too much, so that when we're actually shooting the scene, it's not a lot of pondering about how to make this thing better or trying to tear it apart, doing a character study the way I imagine Scorsese does or whatever. It was really just, okay, we've got the script, we've got our storyboards, we've already got it figured out, let's just shoot it so we can move on to the next thing, so I don't have to pay so much money for this camera rental. So I think really having a full-time producer, somebody who can just make sure that the tools are available so that everyone can do their jobs properly, that's more important than I think I imagined before.
If somebody threw a $10 million budget at you,
Right.
don't have a heart attack, please.
I'd make
Not on camera.
Right.
No, if someone threw $10 million at you, would that make a big difference in the kind of movie you turn out?
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, I don't know. The script that I'm writing now, believe it or not, it probably, in a perfect world, it would use a budget that size. I wrote Primer knowing what I had at my disposal. As far as, I only wrote for locations that I knew I had access to. As I was writing, it was kind of my pre-production process. I would write a dolly shot, but I hadn't. I'm sorry, should I continue?
Yeah, let's hold it just a second, because that will definitely pick up.
Hammer time. Okay, Larry, rolling?
Okay, and big camera's rolling.
Okay. Okay, Bobbie, anytime.
Okay, why don't you pick up with what you were talking about,
Right.
the Ecuador, and that's...
Oh, that's right. You had asked what I would do with $10 million,
Yeah.
I think. Okay. Oh, man, where should I start?
Well, the movie I'm working on now probably
Right.
will take that kind of budget.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, the script that I'm hoping to finish soon, it actually would do well to have a budget that size. But I mean, I wrote Primer knowing what I would have at my disposal. I only wrote for locations that I would have access to, and it was really my pre-production, because I would write a dolly shot, a scene that I think could be executed well with a slow-moving dolly shot. Except I hadn't seen a dolly before, so I would go to the rental facility and see, how much do they cost, which ones can I afford, do I get track with that, and so I would know that, okay, I can write this shot, and that scene would be complete. And so I would just make sure that I had all the tools available, then I could stay in budget as I was writing. So I think I tend to always write like that. And I guess that's why I think it's important that, a writer be a director as well, that you're writing what you're intending on executing, and that you're executing what where it came from, where the material came from. So,
How many years did you spend as an engineer?
almost 3, I believe. It was, yeah.
And then you finally just decided, I can't take this anymore.
No, to be honest, I had a degree in math, and I had started writing short stories in college, and I didn't know, when I graduated, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, but I knew that whatever it was probably going to take some capital. I think I had ideas about maybe starting a business of some kind, So I went to work as a software engineer because it was kind of the easiest thing to step into with a degree in math. And I lived pretty cheaply, and so I was able to save up. And I think my writing turned from short story to novel to finally admitting that I wanted to write in screenplay format. And so I don't think I ever really got fed up with the job. It was just I always knew that eventually I'm gonna have to quit and devote everything I have to whatever this venture is going to be.
But you knew nothing about filmmaking.
Right. Yeah.
So how did you begin?
I was completely naive. I didn't, and I guess that was a good thing because I didn't know how complicated it was going to be. So I just kind of went about trying to take it apart piece by piece. I didn't know anything about cinematography, so I read what I could, and when I realized that it was just photography with a set shutter speed, I just started experimenting. And I got an old 35mm still camera, and I storyboarded the script so that I could just spend a lot of time picking my compositions and experimenting with exposures and color temperature and stuff. And so I think I just, over the course of the years I was writing, I just took it apart piece by piece so that I could understand it. And then so when we finally did the shoot for 5 weeks, it was just a matter of matching the storyboards that I had created and everything else.
Do you think if you'd gone to film school it would have made a difference?
Maybe. I don't know, to be honest, because I audited a film course for a couple weeks, and it was really good because, well, it started off really good because we disassembled a camera, we put it back together, we loaded it. I was learning all kinds of practical things, but then it turned into a theory course, and I was hungry to learn about practical applications and how the nuts and bolts of the stuff works. So I don't know, maybe, to be honest, maybe if I'd gone to film school, by the end of it, I might have lost the drive to do it. I don't know for certain, but I know that I was just really passionate and I didn't have time to kind of sit still and sit in theory courses.
Who are the filmmakers you admire?
Number one is Kubrick. I'm even more so now. I used to be a huge fan of his films. They're just so well constructed, and they're like great novels. But now, as I'm learning just a little bit more about how this whole game works, I'm having a lot more respect on the autonomy that he was able to keep. I'm just amazed by it because it seems to be so easy to just to find yourself an employee of a system as opposed to someone who's very adamant about storytelling.
Okay, guys, hang on a second. I want to see if I've overlooked anything here. Okay. Have you had very many reviews thus far?
Some, yeah. I mean, I read on the internet. There are some posted that I've read.
And what reaction?
Nobody's in the middle on it. There's been reviews that are glowing, and then there's reviews that I think maybe they're from frustrated reviewers because I guess we were talking about before that it's not tidily summed up. And so I can see how somebody might get frustrated with it.
And does it upset you that you get any sort of negative comments?
Well, I mean, there's a part of this where it kind of feels like it's like a fourth grade science project that appears in the Journal of American Medicine. So it's very it's hard for me to complain. I mean, getting reviews at all is different than it exceeds the expectations of what I thought for the film last year. But I do wish that I could talk to the people that give negative reviews. I'd love to have a conversation with them because from my standpoint, all I get face to face is if somebody has something positive to say. So I would love to just kind of have a conversation about what it is that they're not into and stuff like that.
Is there any danger in the fact that you're having such attention and such success with your very first film?
Danger in how people receive the film, or
no,
for me personally?
No, just dangerous for you.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know.
What I'm thinking of, Shane, is this. There are people who make film after film
right.
after film after film, and nobody
right.
gives them any recognition whatsoever.
I guess that's the thing is I don't ever have a day where I don't realize how lucky I am to have a film that even got into Sundance, much less ends up with distribution. So no, I mean there's no danger of it going to my head and me thinking that I know that I won a lottery in some case. Sense.
And the next film, do you think will be judged more harshly or what?
Probably. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I would think that if anybody who knows where the film came from and the budget, they probably do give it, some leeway. And the next time around, hopefully, I'll have the right tools, so I won't be able to blame the budget, is the hope. So yeah, I would think that they'll be a little more harsh.
Is there any possibility you'll ever do a sequel or a continuing story of Primer?
No, probably not. I'd always thought of it as a creation story. It's at the end of the film. We've got a situation here with these two guys, and I'm very interested how they got to that point. But I don't know. It's kind of like the creation story of Superman. I think that's my favorite part of the entire story. But when it turns into kind of a weekly serial of who's the next bad guy he's going to defeat, it's not nearly as interesting to me as where it all came from.
Well, again, Shane, congratulations. I couldn't be happier for you.
Thank you so much.
It's just wonderful. I mean, I love to hear these kinds of stories.
Oh, thank you.
And so just, keep on rolling, keep on rocking and rolling.
Thank you.
Thank you.